武打英雄功夫电影。
今人上路，洋人回避。
Chinese cinema has developed a unique characteristic by combining fear and terror with crazy humor. This mix of genres, which in principle are unrelated, breaks molds and focuses on entertaining and amusing the viewer, although sometimes it is difficult to understand due to cultural separation. It is in this combination, sometimes chaotic, where we find its special identity, mixing kung fu, horror, vampires, possessions, and the most psychotic fear, creating a kind of endless carousel with unpredictable outcomes. Today we want to share some of our biggest nightmares and iconic scenes, those that accompany us in every nightmare and laugh, awakening both visceral horror and the greatest absurdity. Among all the horror films in Hong Kong cinema, there is a phenomenon that caught me from the first moment, the jiangshi or Chinese vampires. These beings are a combination of undead and vampires. Their name literally means stiff corpse, and their peculiarity, along with their typical Qing dynasty appearance, makes them especially terrifying and funny at the same time, thanks to their murderous jumps. For many years, like many other subgenres of martial arts cinema, they experienced a boom or cinematic phenomenon that had a great impact on the industry, fueled by the creation and ingenuity that Sammo Hung gave them in Spooky Encounters. Although this may be his magnum opus, it was not his only one. Today I want to pay a warm tribute to my beloved Chinese vampires.
Gui Da Gui, Encounters of the Spooky Kind, 1980.
While Encounters of the Spooky Kind pioneered the peculiar vampire and undead genre, the film that really catapulted this phenomenon to fame was Mr.Vampire. This film gave rise to a saga with more than 5 sequels, both official and unofficial, although it was its first installment that had an unprecedented impact. The mixture of acid humor with the legend of the undead makes this film an exceptional work, with an outstanding cast led by Lam Qingying and Ricky Hui Kuaning, who give life and freedom to the imagination. The opening scene, in which good Ricky fails to control a group of jumping and irreverent vampires, is perhaps one of the most memorable in the saga. A real delight.
将士先生 Mr. Vampire, 1985.
好識咩？識咗佢哋就生猛啦。喺度坐食飯啦，食飯啦，食飯啦，食飯啦。三四五七八七六四三。
Among the most absurd and crazy films related to kung fu and horror, we find many that mix elements such as snuff movie, horror, kung fu and humor, being quite disconcerting. Perhaps this radical proposal will turn out to be a failure, as the saying goes, he who covers a lot, squeezes little. This phrase perfectly summarizes the approach of the young and bold director Sui Hark, who makes his personality evident by giving free rein to his instincts. That said, the film manages to amuse, entertain and on many occasions provoke true terror, especially due to the manic and crazy characters that inhabit it. It is a true gem worthy of the most demanding collector. With a touch of light gore and plenty of eccentric characters, what could go wrong?
地狱物们 We're going to eat you, 1980.
嗰啲魚片粥咩？指甲、手甲定腳甲啊！
人下鬼 Hocus Pocus, 1984.
Hocus Pocus was Chin Yu-tsang's biggest attempt to make the big leap to stardom, directing and starring in a film that has gone unnoticed but deserves good recognition from the public who are fans of Hong Kong cinema. The effort was so strong that even Sammo Hung himself decided to participate in the film, supporting his commitment as its producer. Something evident, since Chin influenced the entire plot and photography in what was previously seen in Spooky Encounters, by Sammo himself, but giving it a different touch, by adding the poltergeist phenomenon to the matter and with the Chinese opera as an incomparable setting, moments of comedy, moments of tension, moments of action and lots of laughs. Although the latter is where perhaps it takes its premise too far, distancing the audience towards a humor that is too dazed and meaningless, a real shame since I think it is a gem and its approach is original.
麗姐啊，一斬落去就一頸血㗎啦！斬親水魚梗係一頸血啦，麗姐可。行開，斬咧！係邊個搞亂我個雙位嘅？好唔好味啊？鹹鹹地咯。喂，做咩事啊？有鬼啊！
非洲和尚 Crazy Safari, 1991.
Crazy Safari is the third part of a cinematic comedy written and directed by Jamie Hughes in 1980. Filmed on a low budget and entirely in Botswana, it was made up of several sequels. Curiously, the one we are discussing today was produced for Golden Harvest, and for this they participated great celluloid stars like Lam Chiang, in his clear allusion to Mr. Vampire, with Billy Chan as director. Despite all this, it is clear it is a low-budget production. The plot is just as surreal as the final result, and it is still one of the most capricious that I have seen in a long time, bordering on the most absurd and absurd, like the scene that I have selected for today, in which our jumping friend fights against several African natives and our Taoist monk flees on top of an ostrich. Yes, sir, the most normal thing in the world.
Believe it.
佢擔心啊，僵屍梗係刀槍不入噶啦嘛，咪就力叔唔知佢係僵屍到弊咧，真大鑊噶！ And start searching again systematically. Okay, Master? Do you understand me? 你真係以時 very 晒 ，You talking too much. 一陣你飛到上去就放眼落返嚟喎。
Jiangtou. Black Magic, 1975.
A pioneering Shaw film, directed by one of his most prolific directors and featuring a cast of classic kung fu regulars. The explosion of Bruce Lee and Golden Harvest left them without their main source of martial arts, so, after a collaboration with the world-famous but decadent Hammer, Kung Fu against the 7 Golden Vampires, they decided to produce Asian horror with the violence and truculence characteristic of the time. The result is the particularly grotesque, Black Magic, which introduces some of the most grotesque manifestations of Asian mysticism to cinema. Real worms crawling out of Lily Lee's skin, the evil Feng Ku milking Tanny Tien to mix her milk with corpse tallow, and other equally gruesome scenes. The heroic T. Lung sees his role reduced to being used as the villain's sex toy and is forced to swallow a whole centipede soup. An unmentionable film that you should not miss.
我要求的就是爱情价，可以使一个不爱我的人来爱我。
我爱上了一个男人。
价中了我降头的人，不出3天就会死得不明不白。你不要让我死！要连根的。
第二呢？
要他的血。她的丈夫也中了降头。你要听我的话，给我转。你坏事做尽，今天就是你的下场。这就是我的降头。
7位黄金吸血鬼的传说 The Legend of the 7 Golden Vampires, 1974.
Talking about Hammer Films and Golden Harvest is talking about 2 of the best horror and martial arts production companies of their time. But what happens if you combine those unique styles into one film? The result is The Legend of the 7 Golden Vampires, a risky and charismatic bet, although unfortunately it lacks the strength that would be expected from such an ambitious project. The biggest disappointment lies in its script, dull and lacking dynamism, as well as an empty and unfunny Dracula. It would have been great to see the iconic Christopher Lee, or at least, Dennis Price after his performance in Dracula and the Twins, 1971. Although stars Peter Cushing, as Hammer Delegate, and David Chang, representing Golden Harvest, give strong performances, the rest of the cast goes unnoticed. Despite its flaws, this film deserves to be in the top 10 for its staging and its great moments of tension and horror, although its martial level does not quite meet expectations.
It's a new dimension in black belt thrills. As Hammer, masters of horror, and the Shaw Brothers, masters of horror spectacular ever filmed.
The horror is real and very close.
I'll fall before them, and you too will be eternally damned.
the legend of the 7 golden vampires.
Huapi, Painted Skin, 1966.
When you fight, work, and strive hard but get no rewards, it's common to turn to the easier path, one that requires a short sacrifice but promises a lasting result. This is the premise of Painted Skin, 1966, which explores human frailty at crucial moments and how we often opt for the fast track, with adverse consequences. In the film, a young student, pressured and distraught, accepts without hesitation a proposal from an old Taoist monk who promises him future success if he spends a night in an abandoned temple on his family's land. Although it is a film from the 60s and it is a traditional wuxia, its outcome is unexpected and terrifying. I must admit that I felt a chill when I saw the main ghost. This film is transgressive and breaks certain inevitable molds, being one of the first to combine martial arts and horror, with a focus on ghosts and psychological horror. It is a true work of art for our senses that you should not miss. A remake starring Donnie Yen, Painted Skin, 2008, was recently filmed with great success, so much so that a sequel was added to the saga, Painted Skin, The Resurrection, 2012.
A Chinese Ghost Story, 1987.
No, don't think we had forgotten about her. In fact, it is one of the most influential, innovative and passionate films that Hong Kong cinema has produced. Like Painted Skin, this film has evolved the selection of ghosts and psychological horror, contributing a lot to Western horror with many adaptations and inspirations in its proposals towards horror. A Chinese Ghost Story is an impressive and essential trilogy, full of passion, horror fantasy, but above all, a lot of love. It is a very characteristic combination of the decade in which it originated in the Oriental industry, where practically all film genres are fused with fantasy. Although, for my taste, it sometimes ends up creating somewhat saturated and incoherent atmospheres, this same sensation manages to immerse us in its story, captivating us with a tale of unrepeatable terror and true beauty.
白发魔女穿. The Bride with White Hair, 1993.
The Bride with White Hair, an icon of Chinese literature, comes to life in a film that, although not as revolutionary as it should be, leaves a pleasant sensation in our senses. It is like a tea that, although initially bitter, leaves a soft taste in the mouth. This slightly contemporary wuxia tends towards the fantastic, but without forgetting certain values of the past, and above all, its roots in an impossible love story that strongly impacts the heart. Against this background of desperation and passion of an impossible love, the film emphasizes a lot, perhaps too much, resulting in a bit cloying, although it shines in great moments. The film has a second part that, although slightly, maintains the spirit of the first and deserves to be seen.
一號，你要記住，正與邪係水火不相容嘅。
因人依家魔教響關外勢力日漸強大，
我哋嘅總護法出師，消滅咗大批囚犯。
你老人家身為8派16路盟主，都好應該出翻一分力啊！
我打過你咁啊！
啱啱夠碌。你究竟係咩人？點解要跟住我？
外族人同我哋冇仇會，點解一定要殺晒佢哋？
唔好打！
你而家黐線㗎，敵我不分。
照我睇，佢可能中咗個妖女嘅妖法，身不由己啫。
我睇唔知咁簡單。
真係要精英救國，力保江山嘅時候，而你仲同仇敵喺度風花雪月，色欲熏心。
佢個心一早已經俾咗第二個人啦。你仲講？ 佢狼抽大噶嘛？
點解你咁做啊？
I hope you enjoyed this selection of kung fu and horror movies as much as I did. I have compiled those films that, in my opinion, are essential for any lover of the genre. Obviously, I have not been able to mention each and every one of the highlighted films, nor are all of the ones I mentioned the only ones that are worth it. For example, I have not commented on the sequels to sagas like Mr. Vampire, with a long history in pearls as essential as its third part, or Spooky Encounters 2, which is really fun. Despite this, I think the selection somewhat reflects all the styles within Hong Kong horror films, and I am sure that they will provide you with great moments of fun and entertainment.